So I am Clay Marsh, and I want to welcome everybody here and thank you for coming a little bit after hours to our time with melding the health disciplines with humanities. And one of the things for me that's so wonderful is that we have such a talented group of people on campus. And it's really wonderful to see the talents of so many of our colleagues merge with the goals that we have, not only to respond to the health challenges that many of our citizens might have, but eventually to try to focus on preventing health problems from people. And this idea about health and well-being, to me, is as much a state of mind as it is a state of body. And I remember at one of the Benedum Foundation meetings with some of our most esteemed professors who are recognized in different areas, that one of the humanities faculty that was recognized said, we may have STEM disciplines to help create a career, but humanities creates our life. And so I think that having the ability to share beauty and to share emotions, as Maya Angelou said, with each other is really extraordinary. And tonight we have a really special opportunity to appreciate both some of our photojournalistic insights from Jamie Shinn, who's in the School of Geology. And Jamie, I don't know if you're a professor or not, but I'll give you a professor. And then we're going to have also a musical guest, John Wyatt, who will also play and put the photo essays to a different medium of exchange of emotions and talent. So it's really great. And I'd also like to thank Rainelle Nicholson, who's been our longtime partner to doing this kind of work. And I hope this grows between our different disciplines. And thanks all of you guys for being here. So Jamie, turn it over to you.
A little short. Hi everyone, I'm Jamie Shinn. I'm an assistant professor in the Department of Geology and Geography. And it was my great pleasure to facilitate the photo exhibit that you all come to see, which is just down the hall. So hopefully you'll get to look at that in just a little bit. I want to start by thanking several people. First, Dr. Marsh, thank you so much for your introduction and for just giving us your time tonight. I also want to thank, first and foremost, the research participants from this project. They gave a tremendous amount of time and energy to taking photos and talking with me about those photos. And I think a few of them may be joining us online, so a special welcome to those folks. This is really their project. I was just the facilitator. And a very special thank you to one of those participants, John Wyatt, who's come all the way up from Rainelle to be with us tonight. And I don't want to talk for very long because the real treat tonight will be able to listen to John tell us stories and sing some songs. I also want to thank Rainelle Nicholson, Director of the Humanities Center, not only for funding this work, but for being a real champion of the work and for putting this event together tonight. So it's really appreciated. And Sally Brown, the exhibits and program coordinator for the libraries, wasn't able to be here with us tonight, but she's responsible for the installation of the exhibit as well as getting it up online. So many thanks to her. And thanks to all of you for coming, really appreciate it. So again, I don't want to take much time before turning it over to John, but I do want to give you a little context for the project and also what emerged from it. In spring of 2020, the Humanities Center put out a call about life during COVID, and that's what ultimately funded this project. But the story that the project tells actually started long before that, over 6 years ago on June 23rd, 2016. As several of us remember all too well on that day, catastrophic flooding covered large swaths of the state, killing 23 people, doing tremendous damage to homes and businesses across the state. In Greenbrier County, where Rainelle is located, particularly experienced a lot of devastation during that flood, including the death of 15 people there. In May of 2017, a little less than a year after the flood, I began conducting some interviews with a colleague around flood recovery and how that was going, and that's when I first met John. And we really wanted to understand what that process looked like for people about a year out from the flood. And what really struck us about what was happening post-flood was that there was this story of vulnerability, which I would suggest is a story that's so often told about our region, coexisting with these really strong sources of resilience. And that resilience was coming from connection to place and community and family and neighbors. And that these things were working in tandem to determine the outcome of the flood. So in light of that, I had been thinking about a new project in Greenbrier County around resilience and vulnerability and disaster recovery when the next disaster hit, the COVID-19 pandemic. No, of course, I wasn't thinking about research at all in March of 2020, like all of you. I was just trying to keep my family safe and do the essential parts of my job. But when the Humanities Center put out that call, I thought, well, this is interesting. What would these factors of vulnerability and resilience look like in the context of this very different disaster of COVID? It was also an opportunity to experiment with a method that I'd become really interested in, which is called photovoice. Photovoice is a participatory research method that actually comes out of public health originally. And it empowers participants to capture, literally with cameras, their own experiences, their own knowledge, right, to research prompts. So beginning in summer of 2020, working with John, we recruited, I think, 18 people who were excited about the project. In the end, about 9 of them became really involved in taking photos. These were ministers, city council members, parents, retirees, and small business owners. And over the course of about 4 months in the fall of 2020, they took a total of 850 photos. Now, because of COVID, I did everything remotely, which mostly meant I spent a lot of time at the post office, mailing digital cameras and instructions. And then with the help of several graduate students, would check in periodically with everybody by phone to see how it was going. And we left the prompt for the photos particularly broad, right, on purpose. And they were just asked to capture sources of hardship and sources of hope resulting from the pandemic. Again, trying to capture these ideas of resilience and vulnerability. But it was stressed they could take photos of anything they wanted. And the idea here was not actually photojournalism, right? They did not need to be beautiful photos. The goal was to get a snapshot of life during COVID. In June of 2021, I was finally able to travel safely down to Rainelle to conduct a focus group with everybody who had participated. People were given hard copies of all of their photos that they had taken, and they selected a few to discuss with one another. And from this really dynamic conversation, several themes emerged. People both agreed and disagreed with one another, but we were able to identify a story about the pandemic. And so I want to tell you what some of those themes are, and I hope you'll also see them captured in the photos when you look at them. Participants described the mental and emotional toll of the pandemic in ways that I think you'll agree resonate with universal experiences. Things like the impact of school closures and working from home, the inability to hold funerals for loved ones, the fear and depression resulting from isolation. But I also think the pandemic played out in ways that were particular to the small town rural context of Rainelle, in ways both positive and negative. So if you fell sick and were living alone, a local restaurant owner might deliver food to your door. But if someone compromised your family's health by refusing to wear a mask, it might feel more personal. And I just want to read, I'm not going to read quotes tonight, though you'll see quotes exhibited with the photos, but I want to read one that's always really stood out to me. Somebody said, "When I go to Kroger, I know every face I see. I know every single person I see. I've known them and have known them my entire life. So if somebody dies in this town, we all know them. We know their family, we know their mama." You know what I mean? It means something. All of us grieve. If you hear your neighbor died of COVID, it's more impactful in a town where there just aren't that many of us. But it was also clear from our discussions that not everybody experienced COVID in the same ways. And partly this was tied to the political atmosphere at the time of the project. Remember, this is fall of 2020, leading up to the presidential election. And you'll see photos and quotes that capture this. And in addition, experiences with economic hardship resulting from the pandemic varied between participants. One thing that everybody agreed on was that Rainelle was in a state of economic hardship before the pandemic. And this was often tied to the long-term decline of extractive industry jobs in the region. And you'll see that captured in photos. A couple of people actually thought the pandemic helped the economy of Rainelle because it kept people more local. They were less likely to drive to Beckley, right, to go to the hardware store. They stayed closer, and The theory was that they had extra money in their pockets from federal stimulus checks. But during the focus group, some participants described a very different economic reality. They pointed out that with the lack of employment opportunities, and right now most people worked in either the service sector or the healthcare sector, and therefore were at high risk of exposure. But perhaps the most striking theme that emerged from the project was the emphasis that so many participants placed not on the direct impacts of the pandemic itself, but on how they intersected with ongoing recovery from the 2016 flood. In interviews, focus group conversations, and photographs, participants were eager to tell the story of the flood and the ways it was continuing to impact the community, and how this was further compounded by the pandemic. Participants described both emotional and economic ways that the two disasters intersected, or what one called the double whammy of disasters. This was in part tied to ongoing emotional impacts of the flood, including anxiety around rainfall. So people reported always being anxious when strong storms hit the town, which is, as John can tell you, a regular occurrence. But this was made worse by the thought of having to recover during the pandemic. Right? Of note, the entirety of the project was before vaccines were widely available. So they worried about having to take shelter with others, having to seek help in crowded spaces, having to repair homes. They also worried about another economic blow, with so many businesses suffering as a result of long-term economic decline, then the flood, then the pandemic. People wondered if the town could survive another disaster. So my hope is that you'll see all of this reflected in the 30 photos that we ultimately selected for the exhibit, alongside some anonymous quotes from participants. What I think they tell is the story of a tightly knit community surrounded by natural beauty, as one of isolation, small town politics, and the economic toll of the pandemic in a place that was already hurting. But ultimately, the exhibit is a representation of people's experiences with COVID in rural West Virginia, as told through their own voices and their own lenses, in ways that I think are unique to Rainelle and broadly familiar to all of us. But I also want to end by suggesting that I think this story has relevance far beyond Rainelle. In fact, a news story on National Public Radio in 2021, which featured John, suggested that Rainelle is a bellwether for communities across the country with high risk of flooding. And we need to look no further than Kentucky last month or Pakistan right now to be reminded of the toll high floods can take on communities. What Rainelle so poignantly reminds us is that the impacts of these events linger long after waters recede and the debris is cleaned up. And they make these places more vulnerable to the next disaster, whatever it might be. So I believe this suggests we need to think about how we're preparing for long-term recovery, the long-term health of our communities here in West Virginia and Appalachia and across the world. So with that, I want to turn things over to John Wyatt, who both helped facilitate the project, but who participated in it. So you'll see some of his photos featured tonight. John is a minister, a storyteller, a musician, and my dear friend. And he has agreed to grace us with some songs and stories that beautifully capture his own lived experience in Rainelle. And afterward, I hope you'll take some time to chat with us and explore the photos. Thanks again so much for being here.
I met Jamie a couple years before the flood, maybe just after. Just after. But thank you for inviting me up this evening and meeting some of you that already. But and I don't really know where to begin. I think probably Jamie hit on some things that about our little community where we live in Rainelle, in the western part of Greenbrier County. We have no claim to fame there. I mean, we had, one time we had the largest hardwood mill in the world. That was a long time ago, 50 years ago, since it closed its doors. And then when the interstate was finished in '93, it bypassed us, and the tourism and the trucks and all the trade from that era, it just stopped. And honestly, I thought our small community was just breathing its last. And then the COVID came, the flood came. And I thought, well, this will be the final blow. And there's nothing that can bring us out of this this deep place where we are. But something happened during that early stages of the flood. I saw people who had not been, even though they had been neighbors, they didn't get along very well, and for years they were at odds, or maybe not enemies, but at least not good friends. And young people and elderly people, people from all walks of life, whether you were where you were on the social ladder, and all of them began to work together. And it was amazing for me to see that and experience it myself, because as I would walk up the streets that were littered with all the debris, and here would be neighbors holding hands out in the yard in a prayer group, and just it was amazing the transformation that I was seeing because of the flood. And if I could maybe say this today, I think even though our town is still ravaged by the 6 years later, we're still trying to overcome so many things that the flood brought to our town. But working together and working on a common enemy, and working on a common cause, that was something that really stood out to me. And in the middle of all of that, the COVID hit us in 2020, late 19. And I contracted COVID in December of 19. And from all the information I was getting from experts, I figured I was a goner. I would be, this would be, so I made sure my last will and testament were all taken care of. And I wrote letters to my dearest friends and family, and apologized to people that I hadn't apologized to, and told people that I loved them and I hadn't said that to for years. But as the Lord saw fit, I made it through that COVID okay. Rather ill for a couple of weeks, 15, 16 days, but in the process of all the things that were going on, I teach Appalachian culture, or try to. I think our culture as a whole is resilient, like our little town, Rainelle. And there was a young man who came with a group of volunteers with Appalachian Service Projects, and he was working in Rainelle the year prior to the COVID. And I received a letter from him. He and I talked about our desire to go to Ireland and see that country. As a matter of fact, my heritage on my mother's side, I'm Scotch Irish, and so I planned on going to Ireland. And this young man had planned the same thing, but COVID put a stop to that. And of course, I did live. I made it through that bout with the COVID, but this young man, some of his family were not as I won't say lucky, but some of them didn't make it. Well, the year was 2020. I turned 21. I planned to go and see the world, then the virus come. Came and took my grandpa and my mama too. This world will be a sadder place if I turn 22. You came and took my family, came and took my dream. You came across the ocean in a You've shut down all our factories, shops, schools, and churches too. A pandemic, it's upon us, and we don't know what to do. Millions are without a job, they stand in red lines too. This world will be a fearful place if I turn 22. I remember Woody Guthrie and a song he used to sing. Now we're all in this together, we can beat this thing. We'll rise up from the ashes, this land is your land too. We'll make this world a better place when I turn 22. This land is your land, this land is my land, from California to the New York Island, Redwood Forest to the Gulf Stream water. This land was made me and you. And I hope that young man, even though his loss was great, and it really was, and I know I have many friends who succumbed to COVID. As Jamie mentioned earlier, 14 friends and neighbors and people I've known all my life who died from the flood of 2016. So it's been a traumatic 6 years, this decade, for the people in the town of Rainelle. But I have hope, and I work sometimes closely with people who are in addiction and having problems. We're in a terrible, terrible place in our country with drug addiction and all that goes along with that. One of the things that stands out with people who are in addiction is that they lose hope. One of the things that we desperately need to have, not just in Rainelle, not just in Western Greenville County, but in our state, in our nation, and instead of fighting the things that divide us, look at the things that bring about hope again. When I was 12 years old, John F. Kennedy came to West Virginia in his primary bid for the presidency. And when he came, I lived on a small farm on the edge of Fayette County, just outside of Rainelle. And at 12 years old, I thought it was an idyllic life. I really did. I went to a small school, and the farm life was wonderful. I enjoyed the hunting and the fishing and hard work, yes, but I enjoyed it. But when President, then Senator Kennedy came to Charleston, he ordered a plane to go, or ordered a automobile to go down through the coal fields of West Virginia, through Boone and Logan and Mingo, and the news media followed him. And as they followed, they showed pictures of young boys and girls about my age, 12 years old, 11, 12, 13. And here's what they said. And it still tugs my heart, but I remember we were sitting there in our small living room watching a little black and white TV, barely had electricity, but we didn't have inside plumbing, but we had electricity. And the news announcer said, the poor, poverty-stricken youth of Appalachia with no hope for the present and no hope for the future. And I remember listening to that, and I turned to my dad and I said, Dad, what does poverty mean? I had no idea what poverty meant. I knew we were poor, but I had no idea we were poverty stricken. And I looked it up in the dictionary the next day, and it was embarrassing, and it did something to my psyche as a 12-year-old. And it took me years and years to climb out of that rut and out of that hole. And it wasn't until my mid-20s when I came back to West Virginia and came back to Appalachia, and I realized what a wonderful state this is, and what a wonderful place this is. And I like to sing a little bit of a song. I was sitting in Cleveland, Ohio, 1968. Large apartment complex. Everybody in that complex was either from West Virginia or Kentucky or Southwest Virginia somewhere. And I was sitting there in the doorway, and out of all the windows was all this music. The Carter family, Bill Monroe, Hank Williams, Lester Flatt, Earl Scruggs. I mean, it was bluegrass, and it was country, and it was Uncle Dave Macon with the banjo. And I was sitting there and I thought, what am I doing in Cleveland, Ohio? And I have nothing against the folks in Cleveland, but they just can't hold the light to West Virginia. And I was sitting there and I thought, what am I doing here? I went in and packed my grip, put it in my car, and headed back home. And I've been here ever since. And I don't think you can find a better place, better people than what they are here. It's a song of the mountain, so much more than words and melody. It's a song of the mountain, echoes of a people proud and free. Music from the very soul, sung from the heart by young and old. Those West Virginia hills are calling me. I just can't take it anymore. Asphalt stretches door to door. City life is not the life for me. I know I've been way too long. Hear the voices of their song. West Virginia hills are calling me. Well, mountaineers are always free. Those voices keep reminding me. Matters not how far away we fall. So I'm gonna pack my whip today, going back without delay to those mountains and those hills I call home. It's a song of the mountain, so much more than words and melody. It's a song of the mountain, echoes of a people proud and free. Music from the very soul, sung from the heart by young and old. Those West Virginia hills are calling me. All those hills, beautiful hills. Yes, those West Virginia hills are calling me. I was going to sing a song about the flood. I changed it, but I guess I have the liberty to do that. But I can't tell you how much I love Professor Shinn, Jamie. She is just, she's a jewel. She really is. And it's not just that she helped put together, I did very little. the pictures and the photographs and everything. But she just has a heart for the people, for the people where I live. She doesn't just come down as a job or part of her job here at WVU. She does it, it reaches deeper than that. It's a heartfelt project that she did. And I can't tell you how much I think of her and her family. I don't know where Matilda is, but Matilda's around here somewhere. But I just, I appreciate her. I love her. Appreciate's not in the Bible, by the way. But love is. Love never fails. So thank you for letting me come up, Jamie. And anytime I can do anything, well, you call me.
Make a request. Do people want to hear the flood song? Do you want to play it?
Yeah.
People have time for one more song. It's such a beautiful song.
John, that's really remarkable. And Jamie, too. It's really, really good. Thank you.
I think I can. Greenbrier County, West Virginia, like the Prince Emmanuel's land, with your mountain and your river, you're our fathers took their stand, and they stood for all the country, a way of life we love so dear. Now their voices cry out to us, understanding now is here. Muddy waters, muddy waters, muddy waters flood our land. Children, people dying, children dying. Lord, please help us understand. Help us, neighbor. Help us, neighbor. Come some more for pleading cry. We are dying. We are dying. Oh, please don't pass us by. Greenbrier County, West Virginia, like the Prince Emmanuel's land, with your mountain and your river, here our fathers took their stand. Help us, neighbor, help us, neighbor, come some more for pleading cry. We are hurting, we are homeless. Oh, please don't pass us by. Greenbrier County, West Virginia, like the Prince Emmanuel's land, with your mountain and your river, We are hurting, we are dying. Oh, please don't pass us by. I was able to get out of the floodwaters with one vehicle. I lost everything, my house, and much water. All the other vehicles, church vans and everything. We were at a High Point, friend of mine's business. And I walked down to where the waters were. It was about 9:30 at night. It was dark, all the lights were out. You could see the transformers blowing from the electric power. The fog hanging on the water from the propane tanks. And down in on 11th Street, 10th Street, in that area, I could hear people yelling, please come and help us. And I still hear those voices. Several perished down there that night. But myself and 2 other men were able to rescue about 20 people in a little kayak. And it was probably one of the most traumatic times of my life. Not just that, I was thankful we were able to rescue those that were brought to safety, but friends and loved ones that perished. I still hear those cries. And I still hear the cries of people in Appalachia, the town, this area. You know, there's so many things that we need help with today. Thank you, Dr. Marsh, for all the help with the COVID. And it seems like I know him because I watch him so often on TV every evening at 6 o'clock and so forth. But I'm just thankful some people care, like Jamie. Thank you again. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr.